In Inquiry 6.1, we're going to be dissecting a perfect flower. Our question for this lab is, what is the function of a flower? So for your hypothesis, you will make a guess as to the answer to this question. A flower's function is blank, therefore, or because blank. So think about what a flower's function or purpose is, and fill in your blanks on your hypothesis. For the materials, we're going to be using page 93 in our book, and for our procedures, we will find those on page 94 to 97 in the book. Okay, now let's take a look at our data. For our data, you're going to use page 98 in the book to view a diagram of the Wisconsin fast plant flower and label its structures. You will see a picture like this on page 98 that is already labeled in the book, and you can use those labels to help you label your flower. Use the text box tool on Cami to help you label that. Okay, we're going to pluck a flower off of our Wisconsin fast plant. I have one of the fast plants here. Okay, I'm going to take one of the flowers off of it and put it on a petri dish. So here in front of me, I have one of the flowers on a petri dish, and I'm going to try to magnify it for you using a hand lens so that you can see it larger. Let's see if I can get this lined up. Okay, as you can see, the flowers have very bright yellow petals. And you can probably see, I'm not sure how well you can see the magnification there, but you can probably see that the flowers have, and I'm trying to get this lined up for the camera, and it's backwards of how I'm holding everything. There we go. Yeah, that was really weird. That was backwards. It has some things protruding from it, which are some of the important parts of the flower. Now, the reason that the Wisconsin fast plant flower is called a perfect flower is because it has both male and female structures on the flower. Okay, so now we're going to go through our procedures, and you are going to be doing 3 microscope drawings of the different parts. We're going to be looking first at the stamen, which is the male part of the flower. Then we will hopefully shake off some pollen grains and look at those under the microscope, and then we'll also hopefully see the pistil, or the female part of the flower. Okay, so I'm going to start the dissection by plucking off the petals of the flower so that we can get a closer look at the structures without the petals being in our way. Okay. Hopefully you can, well, maybe not. It's not focusing well enough for us. Let me see if I can use the hand lens for you. After we have plucked off the flowers, you can see the little structures, or plucked off the petals, excuse me. You can see these little structures here that make up the male part of the flower. They have a long green stalk, and at the end they have a little yellow fuzzy looking structure. Okay, if we take a look at that closer, we call the whole thing, the stalk and the fuzzy part together, we call it the stamen. The stalk itself, the green little stalks on there, are called the filament, and the fuzzy part on top of each filament is called an anther. The anthers are where the pollen is found. I'm trying to give you the best view possible. We have a little bit of a glare. Let's try the light and see if that improves. No, that doesn't help us any. There's a little bit of glare from the classroom lights that I'm trying to avoid. And I think that just made it worse. Okay, those of you that will be in class watching this video, you'll appreciate the view much better. I'm sorry for those of you at home. I'm trying to make it as visible to you as possible. Okay, now I'm going to shake hopefully some of the pollen grains off of the anthers. And we will have to view that with a microscope. So I don't have a microscope attachment to my hover cam, but I will try to take some pictures of that so that those of you at home can see what the Wisconsin fast plant pollen grains look like. Okay, now we're going to go deeper into the flower. So we're going to pluck off the anthers very carefully because they're tiny. As I was doing that, I saw some pollen go flying through the air. Okay, I think I have one more. Okay, now that I have all of the anthers plucked off of the flower, move all this out of the way that we don't need. What we have left is a little bit of the stem, but what I want you to look at is this part right here that's in front of my finger. And that is what we call the pistil. The pistil is made up of the ovary, which is the part closest to my finger. It's more of a it's a little bit wider. It's more of a bulb kind of shape. And then the rest of the stalk part is what we call the style. And then on the very top, there's kind of like a little platform, and I know it's hard to see from this view, but there's a little platform on top that is called the stigma. The stigma is very sticky. And the reason it's sticky is so that pollen will stick to it. We want the pollen to stick to it. Then the pollen grains go down the tube, which we call the style. They grow like a little stem or root-like structure down the style into the ovary, where they fertilize the ovules, and the ovules are what become the seeds. And then seeds, of course, get spread, and that's how the plants reproduce. So I'm sorry for those of you at home that the view is not as clear as we hoped it would be on the magnification, but I will attach some pictures to the assignment on Schoology so that you can see that better. Okay. Their pictures in the book are also very helpful. There's a picture on page 95 and 98 that show the flower parts a lot better than what this video shows. Okay, once you have done a drawing of the stamen, the pollen, and the pistil, then you have some analysis questions that just review back over the parts of the flower. And then you have some vocabulary words to just define the parts of the flower. And then the very last step of your lab report is your conclusion. In your conclusion, you should write a paragraph that summarizes the function of a flower, and make sure you include some of those terms that we talked about, like the stamen, which is the male reproductive structure, which includes the anther and filament, and also make sure you mention the pistil, which is the female part, which includes the stigma, style, and ovary. And you might also want to mention that the Wisconsin fast plant flower is called a perfect flower because it has both male and female structures.